Lina Melinda was only 5 years old when she gave birth to a baby named Garado, and this is her story. So in early spring of 1939, parents in a remote Preview village noticed that their 5-year-old daughter had enlarged belly. Fearful that the swelling was a tumor, so they took them to the hospital. To the parents' shock, the doctor discovered that their daughter Lina Melinda was 7 months pregnant, and on May 14, 1939, Melinda gave birth via C-section to a healthy baby boy. At 5 years old, 7 months, and 21 days of age, she became the first youngest mother in the world to give birth. So Melinda's case took pediatrician by surprise and attracted international attention that she and her family never wanted. To this day, Melinda has never told authorities who the father was, and the family still shunned publicly, avoiding any opportunity for a tell-all interview. However, despite the mystery that continues to surround this case around the world's youngest mother alive, Melinda got pregnant. Who was the father that had been? This has never been disclosed. However, born on September 23rd, 1993 in one of the poorest village in Peru, Lina Melinda was one of the 9 children. Her pregnancy at such an early age obviously came as a disturbing shock to her, but to Pedrick, the idea that a 5-year-old child could get pregnant wasn't entirely unthinkable. It believed that Melinda had a rare genetic condition called precocious puberty, which causes child's body to change into that of an adult too soon before the age of 8 years old. And for boys with this condition will often experiencing deepening voice, enlarged genetic and facial hairs. So with girls, this condition will typically have their first period and develop breast early on before they're 10 years old or not. However, sometimes the causes of these puberty can't be identified. In this case of Lina Melinda, Dr. Edmondo reported to a medical journal that she had her first period when she was only 8 months old. However, other publications claimed that she was 3 years old when she began menstruating. Either way, it was shockingly early to start. Further explaining, 5-year-old Melinda showed that she had already developed a breast wider than a normal hips, advanced, that is post-pubescent bone growth. But of course, even though her body was developing early, she was still very, very clearly young child. So Melinda sadly given birth to a 5-year-old little boy, and the birth did she had a healthy pregnancy, and doctors said that she couldn't give precise response who the father was actually, and everybody was shocked when she did deliver. So once Melinda's pregnancy became generally known, it garnered attention from all over the world. Newspaper in Peru unsuccessfully offered Melinda family thousands of dollars for the rights to interview and to film Linda. Meanwhile, newspapers in the US had filed a day reporting on the day of story. Her case file also contained numerous accounts by doctors who treated her, as well as clearly defined X-rays of her abdominal that shows the bones of developing fetus inside of her body. Blood work also confirmed her pregnancy, and all papers published in Litters passed pre-review into without a hitch. So that said, every request for the interview has been declined by Melinda. So what happened to Lina Melinda? So Lina Melinda seemed to have gotten a good medical care, especially for the first time, and place in which she lived in Peru, and she gave birth to a healthy baby boy delivered by C-section, because despite Melinda's prematurely widened hips, she probably could have had a difficult time passing a full-size child through a birth canal. So Lina Melinda child was named Garnado after doctor who first examined Melinda, and the infant went home to the family village of Tikpur after they were released from the hospital. So right after they were released, 2 years after the birth, specialist in child education, Columbia University, they found out the youngest person to give birth above normal intelligence, and the baby was perfectly normal. So she thinks of a child as a baby's brother, so does the rest of the family. So obstetrician named Jose, who wrote a book about Melinda, said Melinda often preferred to play with her dolls rather than her child. As Garnado himself, he grew up thinking that Melinda was her older sister. He found out the truth when he was 10 years old. While Gerlinda was healthy for most of his life, he sadly ended up dying at a young age of 40 in 1979. This cause of death was bone disease. So Lina Melinda, it is unclear if she's still alive today or not. After her shocking pregnancy, she went on to live a quiet life in Peru. In her young adulthood, she found work as a secretary of doctor who attended the birth, which paid her way through the school. She married a man named Rahul in 1970, gave birth to her second son when she was 30 years old. Melinda was still married and living poor neighborhood in Lima, giving her lifelong attitude towards publicity and prying eyes of curious outsider towards her history of the youngest person to give birth. It may be for the best that Melinda life remains private. If she's still alive, she could be in her late 80s. However, you guys, this story is so sad, and that's why I always say to be present for your children, because you never know what's going out in this crazy world. But today I can sadly say that she is the youngest girl that gave birth to a healthy baby boy named Gardo, and this story is truly a medical marvel and one that is surely hard to believe. Youngest mother to give birth, she was 5 years old, 7 months, 21 days, the youngest person in the history to ever give birth by C-section. And this story is such a heartbreaking story. Comment below, you guys, and let me know what you guys think about this story.